Mary, of course, was married to one of our illustrious mayors, Al McCaskill. And I'd also like to pass on congratulations to Access Monday, which was a great event, regardless of the weather, but very well received, and looking forward to more. And a great event put on by Revy Riders this past weekend, well attended, and shows some resort municipality dollars that went in, and I think Economic Opportunity Fund and a few others that helped build some trails and bringing in a lot of people into town. So it looked like a great event. Need a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Orlando, Councillor Duke, all those in favor? Motion is carried. And I need a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council minutes of September the 8th. Councillor Sells, Councillor Duke. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor? And is there any business arising from those minutes? Fellow items of old business. New business is administration and animal control license file number 2034. Of course, Councillor Orlando, you should be doing that.
Okay, I'm going to step up for this as well because A and B are around the chicken bylaw.
Chicken.
All right, 9A, I move that animal control and licensing amendment bylaw number 2034 being a bylaw to amend the animal control and licensing bylaw number 1758 to permit backyard hen keeping within the city of Revelstoke be adopted.
Motion by Councillor Orlando, second by Councillor Nixon. Any discussion?
This is the adoption of the hen keeping or the backyard chicken bylaw. I think we've talked about it a lot, and this is just the last step.
Chickens are coming to an end. Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. And item B.
Item B, the zoning amended bylaw number 2067 being a bylaw to permit hen keeping in conjunction with single-family use and to allow for the potential use of an electric fence be adopted.
Motion by Councillor Brothers, seconded by Councillor Orlando. Discussion on the motion.
This is just an addition to the hen bylaws, just dealing especially with the electric fencing. We discussed it before.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Don, can we get the door? Reading concession lease. Councillor Orlando.
Yes, item 9C, I move that the mayor and director of corporate administration be authorized to sign the lease agreement with Icon Sports Group, Inc. on behalf of the city for operation of the arena concession.
Motion by Councillor Orlando, seconded by Councillor Sells. Discussion?
This is the lease for the concession at the forum. All of the terms are spelled out in the staff report, and it's the group operating it is the ownership group, the Grizzlies, and they're taking over the concession or continuing to operate the concession based on a new lease.
Any questions from council? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Standard of conduct polls.
Do D, that policy P1 standard of conduct for City of Revelstoke employees be approved.
Motion by Councillor Brothers, seconded by Councillor Sells. Do you want to say anything about that, Councillor?
Oh, this is a standard of conduct a policy manual, just so that everybody understands who's an employee of the city, what the standard rules of conduct are. And so we put it into a policy so that everybody knows who's employed by the city and what that standard is.
Motion's on the floor. Any comments from council? Councillor Brothers.
The only question I had is what I raised earlier in the committee is about outside remuneration and volunteer work. And I just raised it, and I'd love to hear what other councillors feel about it. It's just that there's employees may engage in remunerative employment with another employer and carry on a second business, and that is an employee who makes that decision. And I'm just wondering whether we as a city should have some say in it, or it should be subject to city approval or something like that when somebody has a secondary job.
Councillor Duke.
If you look, my comment to that is that I don't think the city should.
Shouldn't what?
If you're looking for comments from other councillors, be able to regulate what someone does outside of their city employment. So I know that there are people that have businesses that they run outside that are different from what they're doing within the city, and they're part-time work in the city. And I think that should be up to them if they want to have another job while they're working in the city.
Okay, you started some discussion here. Mr. Sells, did you have your hand up? Sure. And Don? Okay.
Okay. I know that some of the city employees do have other jobs. I, as a councillor, have a company that has another job, two other jobs, in fact, two other companies. So I don't feel that the work that I do is impinging on what I do here, but also I see some of the staff and their work, and sometimes maybe they have to take leave to carry on their work if it's a busy time for them, and it arrange their schedule with their supervisors, and it seems to work well, and other times it's just work that they would do after their hours, so it doesn't seem to infringe on the work that they do for the city. That's been my experience.
Councillor Londo?
My comment is that within the policy that's laid out here, there are specific wording that already deals with that issue. So, for example, it cannot, the extra work cannot interfere with the city employee's ability to perform their duties as a city employee, and there's several other similar statements. My feeling is that's sufficient.
And yeah, I guess, being an employer, oh, sorry, you were next.
He said exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
There's provisions in the.
I just think that that the right thing to do is for an employee to let their employer know that they have, that there's any potential conflicts that could arise, that we should be well aware of them, and making sure that we're doing what we can to safeguard the corporation and safeguard the employee. And but I think that the protocol should be is that the employer should know what that other job or business is and how it can affect us. Councilor.
And that's really where I was directing my comment, is I think the employer, this gives the employee sort of full control over doing it. And I think there has to be some indication that the employee, yes, I have a second job, this is what I do. It will not impact because, I have it under control. But I think as an employer, we should know whether somebody has a secondary position.
Great.
I guess the only other comment that I would have is that I think we have to be careful if that employee is contracting to the city or doing work for the city. That could become an issue.
So, Your Worship, there's a lot of, it talks about conflict as one of the provisions that they have to be aware of, and then conflict of interest is also outlined very clearly in the standard of conduct, so.
Motion's on the floor to approve. Any other discussion? Councilor Londo.
And I'm just making an overall comment. I'd like to thank staff for putting this forward. As it's noted in the report, there's a hole in our policy. We don't have this policy. This brings us up to date. It's got things on workplace behavior, which would be a standard thing, but also things like social media, commenting, gifts, rewards, conflict of interest. So how to read through, there's, I guess for members of the public who haven't had a chance to see it, it's got a lot of thought put in it, and I think it's a good thing to have in place.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? The motion's carried. Tax exemption bylaw.
Oh, that's my turn, that's right, okay. Sorry. Okay, so item 9E, the tax exemption bylaw. I move that 2016 tax exemption bylaw number 2090 being bylaw to allow exemption from taxation for certain lands and improvements in the city of Revelstoke receive first reading.
Motion by Councilor Lando, seconded by Councilor Sauls. Discussion on the motion. And of course, everybody knows what this is for. It's for tax exemption for churches, Moose Lodge, and affordable housing. And there's, Grant, if I keep going on the list, Grant will just start cringing, so I don't want to hear it. Any comments on the motion? Councilor Lando.
Just that this is very an annual process that we go to where we have to do every year.
Any more discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Okay. Number 9E, I move that 2016 tax exemption bylaw number 2090 being a bylaw to allow exemption from taxation for certain lands and improvements in the city of Revelstoke receive second reading.
Motion by Councillor Lando, seconded by Councillor Sells. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor? Motion's carried.
Item 9E, the third part, I move that 2016 tax exemption bylaw number 2090 being a bylaw to allow exemption from taxation for certain lands and improvements in the city of Revelstoke receive third reading.
Motion by Councillor Lando, seconded by Councillor Sells. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Development Heritage Alteration Permit.
9F. I will move that heritage alteration permit applications submitted by Lauren and Christine Zerzan for the property parcel A of block 34, section 27 of plan 636B and 636D 222 Street East to modify the rear dormer and addition on the northwest side of the existing residence be approved, subject to the following condition. The amended building design drawings are to be included with the heritage alteration permit as Schedule A, and the corporate officer be authorized to sign and amend HAP 2015-04 once the above noted condition has been satisfied.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. And Mr. Selig, you have a presentation for us?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Subject property is at 222 4th Street East, and the owners and applicants, Lauren and Christine Zerzan, requested amendments to their existing heritage alteration permit. The amendments consist of reducing the number of windows on the proposed addition facing 4th Street on both the main story and the basement story. Previously, there was 2 windows. And reducing the rear dormer width from 11 to 4.5 feet. The Heritage Advisory Commission provided a resolution in support of the changes at their meeting on September 9th, and the changes are complementary to the existing primary principal building.
Motion's on the floor. Any questions or comments from council? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Move forward to 9G. I move that the heritage alteration permit application submitted by Keith and Julie Berger for the property's parcel A being a consolidation of lots 13 and 14 and parcel B C107651 plan 636B 709 Mackenzie Ave to construct a single car garage accessory building to be approved subject to the following condition. The building design drawings and site plan are to be included with the heritage alteration permit as Schedule A, and the corporate officer to be authorized to sign the heritage alteration permit once the above noted condition has been satisfied.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. And Mr. Selig, you have a presentation on this as well.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject property is at 709 Mackenzie Avenue. The owners and applicants, Keith and Julie Berger, have applied for a heritage alteration permit to construct a single-car garage accessory building. The heritage alteration permit is required as the property is a listed protected heritage property within the heritage conservation area. The Heritage Advisory Commission provided a resolution in support of the application at their meeting on September 9th. You can see the proposed design, or you can see the proposed garage right there, and that's the existing single-family dwelling. The proposed design materials are complementary to and respect the scale and massing of the existing primary building.
Okay. Questions or comments from council? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you.
Move forward to 9H. I move that council receive the development activity summary May 1st to August 31st, 2015.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. Discussion on the motion.
Just note that we're building moving along. It's pretty exciting if you open this up and look at the numbers.
Any numbers you want to throw out there? Are you happy with it? It is nice to see. Any comments or questions from council?
I think it's going to do a presentation.
Should be
The
good
next one.
presentation.
No,
It'll be the next
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
We're all looking at you.
Don't confuse me anymore than I already
Your Worship,
am. Yes, Mr. Strachan?
I will note that we are at 10 million. The number has been sought by economic development, so we will make that notation in the report. We are at 10 million already this year. This time last year, we were just over 7, so we're up significantly from the previous year. We also did 2.5 in September, 2.5 million. So we're already over 13 million, charted towards probably 16, 17.
And there'll be no days off for you between now and the end of the month, end of the year.
Of course, not, Your Worship.
Right. This motion's on the floor. Any more comments from council? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Development permit application for Armor.
I move that the development permit amendment requested by representatives of Revelstoke Mountain Resort to add to Schedule A documents to DP 2014-11 be approved.
Motion by Councillor Duke, seconded by Councillor Nixon. And you have a presentation on this, Mr. Strachan?
Very briefly, Your Worship. There was a development permit application submitted last year for changing the Blue House, as it's referred to up at RMR, into the new ski patrol location. So they modified the building to accommodate the ski patrol and storage in the basement. At the time, they were also constructing a bus turnaround that was in the area adjacent to it. However, they did not have their riparian area assessment nor their engineering completed for that component. It was going to hold up the completion of the Blue House, so they separated the two with the intent of making an amendment to the development permit application to add back in the bus loop once the engineering was completed. So the Blue House was separated, it was completed in construction, and the ski patrol worked out of there last year. What was anticipated at that time is sometime about a month later we would get this other piece, and unfortunately it's ended up being a year later that we're now getting that piece completed. So this is just to add in the bus turnaround, which is located between the creek and the Blue House, the ski patrol building here, as well as to modify their access point. They provided engineering as well as the riparian assessments, because this is a creek up at the top, which would be added into the DP to cover off these two pieces. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Mr. Strachan. Questions from the council? Councilor Nixon.
So, Mr. Strachan, that creek goes into a culvert underneath the creek that shows at the top of the drawing.
Your Worship, it goes in the culvert and goes under the roadway.
Yes, that's the question.
Other questions, comments? This is all ready to be constructed now? Is that the idea, or?
This is built.
All those in favor? Motion's carried.
9J, I'll do a conflict as it is regarding vacation rentals.
Your Worship, that council received the vacation rental implementation update report for their information, and that staff be requested to continue to monitor the implementation of the vacation rental regulations through the 2015-2016 winter season, and provide a further update report in July 2016.
Motion by Councillor Nixon, seconded by Councillor Sells. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Nixon.
Your Worship, I'm just wondering how council would feel about moving that date up from July 2016 as a friendly amendment.
Well, that's the first thing I thought about when I saw that date, but then I started thinking, well, the end of the season is April, and it's going to take a little bit of time to gather the information and get the report. So I was going to suggest moving it up, but then I started thinking about it, and I'm actually thinking that July is probably more appropriate. Maybe a month, June, but I would hate to put that extra strain on the staff to get this information when we'll just be getting started into another fabulous and busy construction season. So I'm not telling you not to put the amendment on the floor. You're welcome to do that.
I'm just wondering aloud whether it should be.
How do you feel about that, moving that up a little bit?
Your worship, the date of July was selected by council because that was the date the bylaw happened to be adopted. There certainly wouldn't be a major data draw or resource draw on us to have that prepared in May if council wished. It was just picked, it was the anniversary of the bylaw, so that's why the date was selected by council at that time, but we certainly could move it up without creating a hindrance on our ability to approve permits.
And that would not bother the bylaw? You wouldn't have to do a whole bunch of paperwork?
No, it's just
Change that
information
date?
for council to, again, assess and decide if it's what it's going to do about vacation rental. So if the mover and the seconder are okay with the date change, I don't think we need to amend it, do we? No, that's fine. But then-
Friendly amendment to June, I think would be reasonable.
Is that all right with the who's the seconder? Henry.
Good.
Okay. You had your hand up, Councillor?
And I appreciate receiving this information because I think it's very helpful. We haven't had a whole bunch of complaints and that type of thing, but, and I know I'm like a broken record here, but I don't think we're addressing the issue of whether or not we should be enforcing this bylaw on a regular basis or whether we should be enforcing it on a complaints basis. And I say it again, you know, I'm wondering why we have a vacation rental bylaw if there's no incentive to apply for vacation rentals because we don't enforce it anyway. So that's my comment again. I'd like to keep taking a look at this, and I'd also like to get to a point where we figure out, is it right for us to just continue doing it on a complaints basis?
Mr. Strachan.
Your worship, part of the discussion that we had previously with council in regards to that enforcement resolution on how to proceed was with the scale of how it could impact the community and the number of bed units. And you'll note in the report, the number of bed units associated with vacation rentals, illegal and legal, is estimated at about 120 bed units. And that only accounts for about 2% of the accommodation bed units within the community. So it would be an enormous level of resource allocation towards a fairly small portion of the bed units within the community. And be very costly.
Well, I guess, if you don't mind, Councillor, I guess my attitude is that vacation rentals is a big concern with a lot of people. It's concerned with business community, it's concerned with neighborhoods, and I know what you're saying, Councillor, and I think that as we evolve along, and I think it's going to be an issue that's going to come up at any strategic planning session that we talk about. And at any point in time, just because we're talking about bringing a report back into June, if council decides that, you know what, it's time for us to really start looking at it, we look at how staff are as far as how busy things are, and things are busy. But at any point, if council decides that, you know, now we're going to start, we can make that decision. I think all we're making a decision for today is to monitor, keep going the way we're going, look at things on a complaint basis, and then staff are going to report back again at the end of the season. But having said that, council can make a decision anytime it wants that it wants to look into this thing a lot more heavily and a lot more seriously. Councillor Nixon and Councillor Brothers.
That's the way I'm looking at it. It's two different things. Like we're looking at vacation rentals and complaint driven. But I think as a council, we need to have that discussion about the perception in the community is, you know, you're charging me for a basement suite, and we're seniors, and we now have to pay a business license for a basement suite. So I think there's a real perception out there in the community that we need to level the playing field for what people are doing to bring extra income in, and they need to be doing it. There is that perception out there.
Yep. Councillor Brothers.
The only concern that I have is by not enforcing it, we actually are encouraging the illegal market, from my perspective, to grow. Because people are saying, well, you know, why would I apply and spend that money if I don't have to, because they're not enforcing it. As long as I'm good, then I'm fine. But I think, you know, complaints about noise, and that's an important part too, but I also think an important part is safety. and making sure that whoever has a vacation rental and is renting it out to people who are coming into the community has the proper fire safety and everything else, you know, because I do hear terrible stories about, where people are residing.
Okay, we're straying a little bit from the motion that's on the floor, and I think that it's pretty obvious that this is a big and important issue, and the next time that we're sitting down talking strategically, I know this will be coming up, and it's something we're going to have to sit down amongst ourselves as council and staff and come up with a plan on moving forward, because I think that it's being expected of us. But I want to get back to the motion, which is talking about this report and the date, and just looking to see if anybody has any comments on this motion.
Your worship, just a question through the chair. What was most valuable for me in this report is the numbers. You know, there's some numbers that really jump out at you, and allows you to sort of contextualize the conversation and the issue. Specifically, Mr. Strachan's highlighted the 2% nature of the number of beds that we're talking about here. I guess my question is, we've had 8, correct me if I'm wrong, applications to legalize as well. Some people decided to get out of the market or maybe switch to B&Bs or whatever they did. What is the forecast for additional applications? Do we have any indication of how many more people are going to come forward and try to legalize?
Your worship, I think it's going to depend on how many people run into trouble. So part of the issue was previously there was no bylaw in place, and there was a moratorium on taking action against vacation rentals. So during winters of 2012, 2013, people knew that. They knew that there was no bylaw, that there wasn't going to be any bylaw enforcement. So it was difficult for those people to exist in neighborhoods. Now that there's a bylaw in place, they know that there is consequences if they are, as the mayor said, a pain in their neighborhood. If they're creating parking noise and nuisance, they're going to have to go through the regulatory process. People generally are trying to avoid going through the regulatory process. Some are choosing to go through it and become legalized, and we applaud that. There's certainly some that are just ensuring that they're quiet and they're not a nuisance in their neighborhood anymore. From a planning perspective, that's a good thing. I think it's incorporating a use into a neighborhood without impacting it or impacting as little as possible. Similar to secondary suites and how we view it is you will never get 100% compliance. It's an unrealistic to think that you ever will. You can try and enforce, but you have to identify these, you have to pursue them, and you need the staff resources to do that. And we outlined previously to council some of those costs that would be associated with essentially hunting vacation rentals and the time that would be allocated to it. And then the mechanisms that have to be used to force compliance. When you're talking about legal action and having to pursue them beyond just trying to get them to make an application, it becomes very expensive for the jurisdiction. And we will never get all of them. It's just not going to happen. And then the same applying to secondary suites. Once you begin doing that, you begin displacing individuals, which is a significant housing issue, and as a reason most municipalities are following the course that Revelstoke is, which is complaint-based. When there's a life safety, when there's something wrong, or they're creating a nuisance in the neighborhood, that's when we get those secondary suites. We're not hunting secondary suites in the community.
Any more comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor? Motion carried. Would you mind letting and we're at number 10, correspondence, and number 11, communications. Is there anybody who would like to bring any items up out of the Economic Development Committee minutes of June 3rd and August 28th? Heritage Commission minutes of June 1st and September the 9th. Where am I? Economic Development Commission minutes of July the 8th. Finance Committee minutes of August the 11th. Parks and Rec and Culture minutes August the 12th and September the 1st. Committee to approve public events of September the 1st. Admin, industry partnership and communication minutes of September the 15th. Councilor Lando.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment to thank Director Lonnie Parker for coming and attending that meeting and providing updates on some of the issues and portfolios that are happening around us. It was really informative. In some cases, they're wrestling with the same issue we are, and it's a good summary and report, and it's worth reading.
Special invitation from the mayor who didn't make the meeting. Security meeting minutes of September the 17th. Fire Rescue Services month-end reports for July 31st and August 31st. Check requisition report, August 31st. Ambulance paramedics of BC QP 873 letter. I don't know who was first, but I'll... Councilor Brothers.
This is a letter from QP and dealing, their ambulance paramedics. They wrote this long, detailed letter. I think it's 14 pages. It's a very interesting letter. It deals with the city of Delta, but what's interesting about it is there's some form of analysis of first responders and the cost-benefit analysis of first responders and that first responder program. The long and the short of it is, and this is coming from the paramedics, I note that, but they did say that, you know, first responders is an expensive thing for a city, and in many respects, or in many instances, it is, the need for first responders by firefighters is not always necessary. And in fact, I think, and I don't want to quote it, but it's a small percentage of the number of occasions that they attend, but are not necessary to attend. The only thing that I want to say on this is, you know, in the spirit of why I think we were, a lot of us were elected, is to review our fiscal situation and take a look at whether we're spending money properly or not properly. I think it's incumbent upon us to look at this report and at some point in time see how we're doing in that cost-benefit analysis. And that's something that I'd like to do. I don't know whether it's done through committee, but that's what I would suggest, is that it starts through the committee process.
Well, I would suggest, I was going to listen to Councilor Sells first, and then I was going to make a suggestion for a motion.
I was going to state the same thing. I did have a conversation further to this letter. I did have a conversation with the QP rep while we were at UDCM. The paramedics of BC, or the provincial government's rolling out 80 more paramedics for British Columbia. Unfortunately, Revelstoke, because we're very isolated, in their words, will not be in on that. So we won't be getting any extra paramedics over and above what we have now. So we need to have a look at how we do things.
Well, I was going to suggest that this be referred back to staff to analyze it, see what's relevant for our community, and then to take it to a security committee and then back to council. So I'm looking for a motion and a seconder. Councilor Brothers, Councilor Orlando. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Motion's carried. Questions from the media?
Thank you, Your Worship. I have one question for you, and when is council going to make a decision with regards to the highway development?
As soon as they've had time to go through the comments, staff has been able to look at everything, make some recommendations if they so choose. They're going to meet, and then it's going to come back to this table. And the day it comes back to this table is the day that we're going to make a decision.
Is that likely to be?
Dawn?
Your Worship, you'll have to do a third reading, and it'll go to the Ministry of Transportation for authorization, and it'll come back for final approval. So there's still a bit of a process.
I'm sorry, what was that, Don?
You didn't get any of it?
We have to do third reading at this table. Then
Yeah.
it goes to the Ministry of Transportation for their approval, then it comes back and gets final approval from council.
Is that likely to be at the next council meeting?
There's-
You don't want to put yourself out there?
Could be,
Could be.
could be.
Thank you, that's it for me.
I got no questions. What? Okay, sure. How's... I got a place to be. We're having a...
Oh,
Yeah.
you're having a party.
All
I'm
right.
having a party in my office.
Oh, you're going.
Yeah,
Better
geez.
go. I'm not going to make it.
You got a social life?
Yeah, I got a social life.
Yeah. You're doing something right.
So there's no question?
No, no question.
Oh, okay.
I'm sure I can come up with something. I think we all want to leave, or we do.
Yeah.
Need a motion pursuant to section 90.1 G of the Community Charter, moving camera.